So a libertarian has finally won an election. I never thought I'd see this day, and I'm very happy as someone who is one. I've
An
come
election?
out an election, yes.
Yeah, okay. Just clearing that up for everyone.
What was that, Harry? Excuse me. But yes, Javier Milei has become the president of Argentina, and I'm very pleased about it because there are lots of promising things that he's said, and he's furthering the ideas, which, particularly in Britain, are not really banded about very much. And hopefully, this will allow it to be mainstream, especially if it works. So, what I'm kind of excited to see and why it's interesting. And I know there will be people saying, why do you care about Argentinian politics, especially as a British person, Josh? What are you doing? Why are you wasting our time? And to you, I say, afuera! That's all I've got to say.
I don't speak taco, mate. I don't.
Harry knows what I'm on about.
I do know what you're on about. We've covered this guy a little bit before in the run-up to the election. Given what he's been talking about with abolishing so many government departments.
We're going to be talking about all of his future policies soon enough.
Some people are surprised that he wasn't in the run-up to this, but I will say I'm not that surprised, as he said that he's going to be incredibly pro-US and incredibly pro-Israel. So if you say those two things in the run-up to an election, that's a pretty sure guarantee that you at least won't be Epstein.
If you're anything like me, witnessing the gradual decline of Western civilization can really drain your energy. But if you want to get through the day with your sanity intact and keep a sharp mind as we wade through the ashes together, a good night of restful sleep is vital. That's why you need Rest Again. Rest Again is a natural supplement that contains 11 scientifically backed ingredients designed to get you to sleep and help you to stay asleep by working with your body's natural processes and not against them. Rest Again wants to ensure you get a great night's sleep and make sure to do this by sticking to doses of ingredients that have been shown to work and have not chosen the cheap option for you. Rest Again starts by supplementing the vitamins that your body needs to produce GABA and melatonin, the sleep chemicals, naturally, including vitamin D, B6 and magnesium. Then, Rest Again adds in herbal extracts like ashwagandha and L-theanine, which have been shown in scientific studies to help people get a better quality of sleep. And to top that off, Rest Again gives you what you need to get to sleep at night, not just after your body has started producing what it needs. That means an extra dose of melatonin and GABA that tells your body it's time to sleep. Rest Again doesn't claim to be magic and can't promise you that it will work for you, but if you're not getting the results that you're satisfied with, then Rest Again guarantees to give your money back. So if you're interested in improving your sleep, then click the link below and get 25% off.
So he's the reason that I'm interested mainly is that it's a good point at which you can prove Austrian economic principles to the world. That's one thing I would like to see, because of course a lot of people who criticize it say, oh, you know, it works in theory perhaps, or, you know, they may have had some lucky guesses about predicting the future repeatedly in multiple instances, which, you know, would be considered evidence in most other areas. But it's just not been tried in government. We don't know what's going to happen. And of course, it could be interfered with internationally. People won't want it to work because it might interfere with an economic system in which they stand to benefit a lot. And I would quite also like to see the kind of people that are going to come out and say, this guy's terrible. Look at him. He's giving people freedom and he's trying to reduce taxes. How evil and bad. I want these people flushed out. I want to know who they are. And I think they need to be out in the open and exposed to the world for the horrible people that they are. And I like the idea that it's going to legitimize libertarian ideas, as a libertarian myself, as well as it's going to make the left very angry. And that's always nice. I enjoy a bit of leftist salt.
Well, on what you're talking about there, that it will legitimize libertarian ideas, what I'm really interested in with this whole story, now that he's been elected, is it kind of operates as a large-scale experiment for the world to look at.
What I have in mind, yeah.
Which is that, one, it can test how viable it is to implement these policies at all within a modern political system, whether the departments that already exist within a government state will allow you to flush them out and remove them and clear them out. And two, if he is able to implement the policies that he does, we'll be able to see their direct effects on the rest of the world. Obviously, we'll have to look at potential contingencies from pressure groups and other governments across the geopolitical sphere, like America, whether they'll interfere in anything. But if he gets to do things like he is saying that he will do, we'll get to see their direct effects and be able to judge them from there.
Absolutely. So Argentina is obviously facing lots of big problems. That's part of the reason why Peronism in Argentina was rejected, and his rival Massa, who I believe is a lefty, was seen as being part of the problem, basically, and that's how he won quite resoundingly, actually. So let's have a look at their inflation rate. Just over the course of this year, it went from 98% in January to 142% in October, which is massive. And it's a lot worse than that as well, because if you look at the IMF's biggest debtors, you may notice a massive Argentinian slice of that pie. In fact, it's more than Ukraine, it's more than Egypt, it's more than some of the sort of narco states like Ecuador, Colombia, even Pakistan, a bit of foreshadowing there for the third segment. But yes, they're not in a good place economically, and that's the main problem, although there are also...
even against countries that are actively in war right now.
Yes. And so clearly there's been economic mismanagement here, because Argentina should be doing well. I mean, you go back to the 1980s, people used to talk about them being a potential superpower because of their large amount of land, lots of natural resources, their position in the world, as in geographically. And yeah, that obviously didn't happen. And I think this might be a good reason for that. Just absolute communist mismanagement, or, well, I suppose that's the intended consequence of communism, isn't it? So I wanted to go to some videos. If you could go to those, John, let's have a look at what he's like as a person. And these are, quite frankly, fantastic. It's nice to see.
It's going to be the best clips.
Yes.
It's the best bits of...
These are the best clips, some of the best clips of politics in the world. And here we go.
¡Zurdos, hijos de puta, tiemblen! ¡La libertad avanza! ¡Viva la libertad, carajo! ¡Vamos!
He's telling left-wingers to be afraid. Could you imagine a right-wing politician in Britain saying that? Would it ever happen?
Yeah, there's a reason that he's been described as the South American Trump, is that he does have that bigger-than-life personality.
He does, yeah, and he's done years and years of TV like debates and things like that, where he would call people names, and to be fair, most of them deserved it, in my opinion. I mean, he's debating left-wingers.
I'm not going to go clutching any pearls at the, oh no, the TV talking heads. Somebody think of their feelings.
I know, and this is one of the most iconic ones, and I know many people have seen this already, so we're only going to have one more video, but he is like the human personification of how 4chan speaks. I'm looking at you, Callum.
Good. That's good news.
That's what I look for.
If I remember correctly, this has some appropriately South American exaggerated zoom-ins on people's faces, so you really see the shock.
Sort of Oblivion NPC dialogues. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, a little bit.
Let's go.
Al zurdo de mierda no le podés dar ni un milímetro.
Pero ¿me podés definir zurdo de mierda? Que no
Todos
lo
los que, digamos, los colectivistas, los que ponen, digamos, o sea, esa idea... A ver,
¿Por qué le pones de mierda, digamos?
Porque son una mierda. O sea,
vos mezclás...
No,
pero
es que si pensás... Pero si pensás distinto te van a aniquilar. Ese es el punto. Es decir, vos al zurdo no le podés dar un milímetro, porque le das un milímetro y lo toma para destrozarte. Es decir, digamos, o sea, vos no podés negociar con el zurdo. No se negocia. No se negocia con esa mierda, no se negocia porque te van a llevar puesto. Si tienen un golpeador que caga trompadas a la mujer, digamos, si es de ellos, ¿entendés? Se pone el pañuelito verde y grita todo el tiempo contra el neoliberalismo, lo ocultan. ¿Me entendés? O sea, si de repente hay alguien que acosó a un periodista que acosa a otra periodista, lo ocultan. Es decir, a todos los de ellos lo ocultan. Todas esas aberraciones la ocultan. Ahora, si vos estás del otro lado, a vos te van a estropear, te van a matar, te van a dar con lo que sea. No les importa arruinarte la vida. ¿Por qué? Porque no pensás como ellos. ¿Y sabes qué es lo bueno de todo esto? Hay algo bueno en todo esto. Porque como el error es humano, como todos nos podemos equivocar, ¿sabes qué nos obligan? Nos obligan a ser mejores. Y como estamos siendo tan mejores que ellos, como los estamos aplastando en la batalla cultural, los estamos pasando de arriba, porque no solo le ganamos en lo productivo, somos superiores moralmente, somos superiores estéticamente, somos mejores en todo. Y les duele. Les duele. Entonces, como no pueden pelear con las herramientas legítimas, se apalancan en el aparato represivo del Estado, poniendo torres de guita para hacernos mierda. Y aún así no pueden. Tuvieron que bajar la nota. ¿Me entendés? Que están perdiendo. Están desesperados, están perdiendo la batalla cultural. Los zurdos de mierda, por primera vez, se ven acorralados. Los zurdos de mierda.
You've got to admire his enthusiasm.
You have, yeah. Perhaps stronger language than I would have perhaps used, but you know, he's hammering the point
home. He won him an election, so it obviously worked.
Yeah, well, I guess so. He does raise some good points there that I actually didn't think of. The main one being that by the left applying, you know, their standards unevenly, it's made the right tougher. And now we're better than them. And I think we certainly are.
Well, he's certainly done what a lot on the right are unwilling to do, which is state outright and recognize in the first place that you cannot play fair with people who are actively trying to kill you. And
yeah, I'm completely done with that.
And all of the ministries that he is going to look to abolish, all of the different government departments, have to be completely cut out and excised purely because of the fact they were put in place by leftists to serve left-wing interests. They are there. So it's the patronage scheme. We start this department, we fill it with our friends who will continue to do what we want to make sure, in a Blairist sort of way, that if we don't get into power anymore, if we're out of power, to make sure that these people will completely lock in any future governments so that they have to do what we put them in place for.
Yes.
But he's saying, well, we just need to get rid of all of that.
And
just
it's
like
also
the Conservatives should have done, which is why, once again, I'm going to approach with some skepticism to see if it is even possible.
I would like to see it,
to do what he is saying that he will.
But what's great here is that lots of the time people say, oh, but libertarianism is impotent to, you know, leftist subversion. Well, not if you have this attitude, it's not. And this is my kind of approach to it of, yeah, if they want to take away my money, my rights, I don't care about them. I'm going to destroy them politically. I'm more than happy to do that. No sympathy. It ruins their life, so be it. They deserve it. They want to take my stuff. They want to take my freedom. Well, they absolutely deserve what's coming to them. And I think he's right to be angry. And Callum, you're looking a little bit scared.
I just kind of find it funny that we look at this foreign country that should have its own norms and everything else, and it's just an Anglosphere discussion from like 2008, but without any of the mass immigration stuff. Same sort of populism in the sense of, hey, leftists, go eat S. But it's in a foreign place, you'd expect something more than that, but it's like, no, you guys are just us back then, where you could talk about economics instead of having to constantly talk about, like, I don't know, people invading your country instead. So I kind of like it. It's cute.
It's cute. I think you're the only person who's watched that video and said, oh, that's cute.
I don't know. I'm kind of a woman sometimes when it comes to stuff like that. Like, oh, he wants to get rid of all the leftists in weird ways? Cool.
He's so sentimental, Callum.
I thought it'd be worthwhile just talking about some of his policies in a sort of quick-fire way. So it is worth mentioning as well that the legislature is a restriction on the president in a similar sort of manner to lots of other countries. And he will need support from other parties to achieve what he's set out to do. It may well happen. I think he's got a sort of soft alliance with some of the conservatives, at least, because many of his views are socially conservative. Some of them are certainly not, though. It is worth adding. But I wanted to go through...
Right. Hasn't he been involved in tantric sex cults?
It wasn't a cult, but he's done some degenerate stuff. Yes, of course.
Of course. All right.
He's a libertarian.
I was going to say, he couldn't be a libertarian if he hadn't.
What can I say?
Please
Self-deprecation.
less.
But I wanted to list off all of the ministries that he wants to abolish because this makes me happy just hearing it out loud. Ministry of Sport and Tourism, Ministry of Culture, Ministry of the Environment and Sustainable Development, Ministry of Women, Gender and Diversity, Ministry of Public Works, Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, Ministry of Labour, Employment and Social Security, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Transport, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Social Development, I mean, he could go a touch further, in my opinion, but, you know, it's a start. And this is great. As well, it's going to make me so happy. Like, people are going to be saying, oh, how is the society going to function if the government's not doing all these things? Well, if you need the government to sort your life out for you, do all these things for you, you're a loser, and you should be able to stand up on your own 2 feet and, you know, support yourself rather than being like, oh, daddy government, come save me. You're just wusses.
Women. The Department of Women over there. I think it's probably where your best argument is.
That's insulting to women.
Yeah, but that's the point. Is like, you really need a department for what?
Women, genders, and diversity as well.
Wait, so what? Women, genders?
Not women, genders.
Women, genders, and diversity.
Genders.
Right, they haven't got to the SJW worldview yet in South America.
They're somewhat getting there, I think.
Okay.
Well, once again, I'm not as fervently anti-government in all situations as you are. I can see
It's quite a difficult thing to do, yeah.
I can see where there could be a good use for one or two of these departments, potentially, but I know from experience that every single one of these departments, especially something like the Ministry of Women, Genders and Diversity and the Ministry of Education, which in the clip that I was expecting you to include in this, but you haven't, where he's going through the board and he says, afuera, as he rips the government departments off. He explicitly labels the Ministry of Education the Ministry of Indoctrination, that these will all be outposts for leftism to promote leftism and to governmentally enforce it. So while I can see if there was a neutral system where everybody was actually trying to be objective and neutral and say, what's best for the country, how some of these, like the Ministry of Culture, might do well to promote cultural works and give grants to artists that wouldn't have necessarily been able to have money to succeed by themselves. But that's not how these are going to work. That's not at all how any of these are going to work.
You can't really be neutral in politics because everyone brings their own biases to everything, even in, you know, the world of scientific research, where you actually really want to be objective to find out the truth. You still, you know, unintentionally bring biases along that change your results. So it's a futile endeavor, and people should just be free to choose, because at least then they can, you know, have institutions that they like rather than having to ruin it for everyone else or vice versa. But some other things he wants to do is slash public spending by 15%. It should be more, in my opinion, but, you know, it's a start. Abolish the central bank. Oh, that's music to my ears. Switch the Argentinian peso to the United States dollar. That's a bit risky. I'm not too sure about this one, actually. This is one of the things that I think might actually be a bit of a downside. I know the peso's got a lot of inflation, but also then you're going to be beholden to the United States Federal Reserve, which is, you know, freeing yourself from slavery and selling yourself to a different master, which could be a mistake.
If he's looking to abolish a central bank and then hook himself up to the United States dollar, he's just putting himself under the auspices of a different central bank, a foreign central bank.
He obviously wants to purge all the leftists from the institutions. He opposes abortion. He opposes sex education in school. He says it's up to the parents. He denies that climate change is man-made. He favors looser gun control. He's said he's not going to trade with China or Brazil because he doesn't deal with communists. So and he wants stronger ties to the US. You know, this all sounds like good stuff in my mind. I mean, other than maybe the peso, and I've got some reservations about the possibility of some of these things.
I will say one other policy of his that I've seen, well, two that I've seen, which I'm a bit iffy on. One being that he said that obviously he wants to get rid of the welfare state, but once he's got rid of the welfare state, he says he wants some kind of free immigration system, which is basically open borders. And he says that without the welfare state, then people won't have the same incentives to come to the country. I can see that argument, but I can see that people from foreign countries that are economically impoverished might see, if he does manage to turn Argentina around, even without a booming welfare, if you get a booming economy, they'll still want to come over there to improve their own economic chances. So that could encourage floods of migration.
I think if he does do that, that would be a mistake.
Yeah. And also he's got, I don't know if it's complete, but he's got some policies regarding drug legalization. And I'm
of course, forgot to mention.
I'm always very skeptical of these. But once again, if he actually goes ahead with it, it will be a useful experiment to see the actual real world effects of these policies. Although, once again, we will need to take in potential contingencies. If he does legalize drugs, who knows, maybe the CIA will start airdropping fentanyl.
I think it's something like that. If it is to be done, it should be done sort of incrementally and, stopped once you get out of the area of non-addictive and non-lethal. I think the ones that are addictive and potentially lethal, it shouldn't really be done recreationally, in my opinion. And, I'm relatively libertarian, but at the same time, something like fentanyl, something like heroin, that shouldn't be available. It's basically a poison that, you can't take that recreationally.
But we'll see how far he goes with any of those policies and if he's even able to commit to them without being hemmed in by the system.
And I wouldn't be a British person without mentioning this. I get the impression that the Falklands are safe, despite weirdos reeing that he's going to take them over for some reason, just because he's a flamboyant speaker. But he was praising Margaret Thatcher, who, of course, famously oversaw the defense of the Falklands. And so I imagine that he wouldn't be saying that if he was bitter about us keeping the Falklands. So I get the impression, although he's not explicitly said anything either way, that they're going to be fine. And we're not really going to butt heads with him, which is nice because it would be a bit of a shame, in my opinion. But anyway, I wanted to look at the mainstream media. I'm just going to fire through some headlines to kind of play us out here about the mainstream media getting upset about it all. And, we have our state media here calling him far-right, outsider, wins Argentinian presidential runoff election. Bit strange that they're calling him far-right. They don't call Hamas terrorists, though, do they, in their coverage? So,
This is the real threat to the West.
Yes. Scary man wants to...
Angry, shouty, silly hair man.
Mm-hmm. That's what all leftists are scared of. If you get silly hair, you'll scare leftists. That's a good moral of this story.
Terrifying at the moment too.
Just in general, really.
Oh, excellent.
And here we have the Telegraph, purportedly right-wing newspaper, hard right, and Bloomberg. I'm not sure if this was intentional or just generic news reporting, but China congratulates Argentina's Milei despite assassin insult. And
I need some context for this.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's saying that the Chinese might assassinate him, is my understanding, because he said he wasn't going to do any trade with them. And I think by reporting on this as if it's a big deal, rather than just a formality, they're trying to imply that there's some sort of China connection, like the Russiagate conspiracy of the Democrats in the US. And then The Guardian in particular has a particular bee in their bonnet about him. And I just wanted to go through all of these. Argentinian presidential election, far-right libertarian. Hang on a minute, how does that work? I mean, The Guardian says far-right. They normally refer to mid-century German or mid-century Italian enthusiasts, not libertarians. They're obviously trying to smear him as some sort of extremist, which I suppose by The Guardian standards he kind of is, but not in the direction that they're using that kind of language. And then here we go again, far right again. They also refer to him as El Loco, of course, meaning crazy, I imagine.
It's quite endearing, though.
Mm-hmm. Because it's in Spanish, it is kind of
if somebody could start referring to me as something like El Loco, I'll take it.
You need to get some face tattoos, lots of gold jewelry.
Never mind. I retract my statement.
It does sound like one of the sort of cartel members from Breaking Bad, like missed out character in the deleted scenes.
Crazy Ape.
Yeah, there we go. And here we go, far right again, blah, 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 blah. And this is something that I thought was ridiculous. Economists warn electing far-right Milei would spell devastation for Argentina. They're standing at about 150% inflation. They have the largest IMF debt in the world. And they're just like, well, this is terrible.
No, I see a particular name in this byline.
Thomas Piketty, famous for being a leftist economist, which is up there with being, what's a good analogy, leftist economist? Well, it's like being, I can't think of one. But basically, you can't be a leftist and an economist because leftists make moral arguments about economics, not objective, observational ones. They're not empirical in the slightest. They just say the world should be like this and it's not. Boo hoo hoo, wah wah wah. Rather than saying, here's how the economy works, here's how we maximize growth and efficiency, which any sane person would look at it like that. And there's a couple more. They're trying to make out that he's going to be a dictator, the man who's cutting most of the government departments. He's going to be a dictator, of course. Yes, they're referring to him as dictatorial, and they're trying to claim that offspring of military officials convicted of crimes against humanity and genocide during Argentina's dictatorship have urged voters not to back the far-right candidate Javier Milei in the imminent election, warning that the country's very democracy is in danger. I didn't see any evidence.
So the statements here are the children of people who committed genocide have said, don't vote for this man. And the Guardian's like, well, we should listen to those guys.
Yes. That's my understanding of it.
Okay.
Very strange. But here we go again. They tried this trick again. Argentina's far-right frontrunner reopens wounds of dictatorship. What, a libertarian dictator? Okay.
Well, you've got to remember that from the leftist conception of democracy, they see all of those government ministries that manage culture, education, women and gender, and all those. They see.
I still go with the framing of like, I manage women. That's your job. Okay.
They've institutionalized misogyny unintentionally.
Yeah. From their perspective, democracy is ruled by an enlightened elite, and populism, being actually giving the people what they want and voted for, is dictatorship. So him removing those departments that let the enlightened elite do what they want and dictate your lives is evil dictatorship, because he's the one who wants to let people live their own lives in a way that's best for them.
You want people to make their own decisions? You're literally a dictator.
Do you know who else wanted to do that?
No.
No, neither do I.
No, me neither.
I can't think of a single political leader in the past 100 years who wanted to do that.
But anyway, I just wanted to celebrate and gloat a little bit at the left. And yeah, it's nice to see something positive happening in the world. I think also lots of people have been saying that this bodes well for the 2024 American election, although Trump is already seemingly polling better than everyone else. So, you know, let's see what happens. But best of luck to you, Argentina. I wish you all the best.
Thanks for watching that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you're interested in finding more of what we do, you can subscribe to the website for as little as £5 per month, which will give you access to all of the video series that we do, including Stelios' Symposium, the most recent episode, 43. He sat down with Charlie Downs to discuss ideology. As well, at the moment, if you use code BIRTHDAY on Stripe when signing up, you can get 33% off of your first 3 months of your subscription to the website, so take advantage of that while you can. Furthermore, if you'd like to follow Stelios and see what he's doing on a daily basis, then you can follow him on Twitter at, and I'm never going to get this right, Panagiotou, I think I got that right, 90ST. Thanks very much again for watching, and take care.